Hi, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. Happy Friday. Cheers to the weekend. You made it. I'm winding down this 30-day detox that I've been on, and I found some fruit that looked like it needed to be consumed. So I decided to run it through the juicer. So I made this pear, apple, ginger, key lime juice, and I figured everything tastes better in a wine glass, so it's really good actually. It's sweet, but it's got a little bit of tang to it. So anyway, I'm enjoying that. But I wanted to talk to you about the catch-22 of narcissistic abuse. It's tough when you have been hurt, burned, taken advantage of, lied to, manipulated, stolen from, cheated on, if not worse. Narcissism is on a spectrum, and we all have narcissistic traits. And abuse is also on a spectrum of sorts, and we all have the capacity to hurt each other. And it can be really challenging when you're hurting and when you're trying to heal and recover and move forward with your life, to feel as though the narcissist in your life who hurt you is getting away with it, that they're just skipping off into the sunset, that they are just living this carefree life, like that they're just living it up, drunk 24/7, high as a kite, without a care in the world, not working, and just kind of hanging out, even in the streets. And it can seem unjust in a lot of ways. Like, wow, what happened to a person reaps what they sow? God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. And what happened to, getting your comeuppance or getting your just desserts? It can really be challenging because oftentimes we don't see the results of our abusers' actions. We don't see the consequences being administered, and a lot of times deep down, we kind of secretly want to have a front row seat with like food and beverage service and a nice cushy chair in the VIP section to be able to see them reap what they sow and really see that demise. And a lot of times it doesn't work out that way. And I believe that part of that is by design, at least on the narcissist part. Like, they'll try to hide, and that's where more covert type behavior kicks in, where they'll try to hide any consequences that they may be experiencing from you. Remember, I shared with you that towards the end of his life, my dad did not want to get together with me. And I begged and pleaded and offered all kinds of different ways for us to get together. And it was Christmas, and he wouldn't get together. And I know part of that is because he did not want me to see how he was living and how far he had fallen, like not have that visual. Now, he talked to me about it on the phone, but he didn't want me to actually see him in his, humble element. And I think that that applies to a lot of narcissists in our lives. They're very ashamed of their behavior, even if they don't want to admit it. And they are being humbled, but they don't want you to see. They don't want you to see them broke. They don't want you to see them homeless. They don't want you to see them strung out on drugs or just falling apart, aging poorly. So they'll kind of go into hiding. And that can be really difficult because in some ways you can feel so hurt to the point where you just want to see that, okay, I want to see that they're getting their just desserts. I want to see it. And you may hear about it, you may even read about it, but you may not see it. I mentioned the alleged murderer. He's still sitting in jail. It's been a few years now, and he's still sitting in county. And I've heard and read a couple little things. I remember my therapist one time turned her computer on, and she logged into the county information, and she pulled up his file, and she turned her monitor around and showed me in the therapy session. And this was after a lot of therapy, because I was not ready to see that at the beginning, but that was one of our sessions, was kind of going through, and she kind of read through every line item of what had happened to him up to that point. And from what I understand, he's still sitting in county. And it's like, golly, what's taken so long, like, to administer justice in this situation? You know, his late wife and 2 children have been deceased. So it can be kind of hard to not see that justice served. And if you've been manipulated, cheated on, lied to, scammed in any kind of way, or physically abused or sexually abused, it can be hard to just see or know that your abuser is kind of figuratively walking around scot-free, just, you know, living their life and not really reaping the consequences, right? And just know that they really are. And I know even from what my dad experienced, they do get their comeuppance. You know, they reap what they've sown. Another thing that's really challenging, that kind of is part of that catch-22, is that it can be very hard to hear about the pain that your abuser suffered prior to you meeting them, or prior to you maybe being born, if it was a narcissistic parent or something like that. It can be hard to hear that your narcissistic dad had his father murdered at age 8 and grew up without a dad, and then had other tragedies on top of that he had to live through. Or that your narcissistic grandmother ran away from home as a young teen, and ran away from an abusive parent herself, and ran into the arms of another abuser, and then had a whole family, and just was kind of in over her head, but like tried to kind of be strong and portray this strong matriarch, but herself was just a kid when she had her kids, and then didn't really know how to be a parent, and didn't know how to handle all of this stuff. And then, you know, become a widow and experience tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. It's hard to hear that someone who conned or scammed you was horribly abused as a child. Maybe they were beaten, maybe they were molested, maybe they went through the foster care system, maybe they were homeless or drug addicted, or just taken advantage of in other ways by their family members. Maybe they had to run the streets or work the streets as a prostitute. It's hard to hear those things when you're hurting, and when you have been on the receiving end of someone else's abusive behavior. It's even hard to hear that tired saying of hurt people hurt people. And this is where I think there is a really great opportunity, if not the greatest opportunity, and in my opinion, good reason for focusing on yourself and on your health and well-being, and not focusing on the narcissist, leaving them where you met them, or leaving them where you last met with them, and getting on with the business of your healing. Because if you don't turn inward and do the deep work to figure out how and why you came to tolerate the abusive behavior, or what led you to not speak up about the abusive behavior, and what led you ultimately to let other abusive people into your life as an adult, then you'll only repeat the cycle in some other capacity in your life. And you, now that you've come into this awareness, it's a really powerful thing, because you have the capacity to stop the cycle. You have the capacity to go inward, dig deep, do the deep work, to get vulnerable about the abuse that you experienced, to get validation for what you went through, and to really gain understanding and wisdom, and even take responsibility for your part as far as necessary, and then get on with the business of healing so that you don't continue the cycle of abuse, especially if you have children. And it doesn't even have to be anything major. It could be something as simple as, being reactive because maybe you were triggered in a certain way because of the abuse that you experienced. It could be speaking, say, for example, to your kids in a sharp tone, or to your partner in a sharp tone, or just being reactive, or maybe in some lesser way imitating something that you experienced in your dealings with your abuser. Abuse is rampant, and we're seeing a lot of it right now throughout our society. And you came into this awareness for a reason. At the time that you did, and the way that you did, no matter how painful, and I'm not minimizing it, I'm just saying that you came to this awareness for a reason. And there's purpose in there. And you have the power to stop the cycle. So I want to encourage you to take back your power, leave the narcissist where you met them, do the deep work of healing, and go do something great with that. Stop the cycle. And be part of the healing solution. Do you sometimes feel conflicted by the catch-22 of narcissistic abuse? Do you see yourself as powerful and having the ability to stop the abusive cycle in your life and in generations to come? Comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You're not alone, and you're not crazy. Know who you're dealing with, know who you are. Take care, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.